It happens not with a warning. It happens with the most violent physical impact in the history of the solar system. In a single theoretical instant, the solid ground beneath our feet, spinning at over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, slams to an absolute grinding halt. But the atmosphere does not. The air we breathe, the clouds above, the oceans around us, they all retain their massive momentum. The result is a supersonic wind blast instantly accelerating to match the speed of the Earth's former rotation. It is a kinetic wall of air, faster than sound, a sheer force that tears skyscrapers from their foundations like stalks of dry wheat. It pulverizes concrete into dust. Simultaneously, the oceans, obedient to Newton's laws, lurch eastward. A global tsunami, miles high, scouring the continents clean of soil, forests, and cities. In the first 5 minutes, human civilization is not just silenced, it is atomized, erased by the very physics that once sustained it. As the dust from the initial cataclysm begins to settle, the silence that descends on the planet is deafening. The immediate aftermath of the sudden stop is a world unrecognizable. The kinetic energy release of the atmosphere and oceans colliding with the stationary crust would generate heat, rivaling a nuclear bombardment, likely scorching the surface in vast swathes. But the destruction is not uniform. The poles, which rotate at a much slower speed than the equator, would be spared the worst of the supersonic winds, perhaps leaving the research stations in Antarctica and the settlements of the high Arctic as the only partially intact structures on Earth. However, their isolation would be short-lived. The initial wind blast would scour the landscape down to the bedrock. The fertile topsoil that took millennia to form, the ancient forests of the Amazon, and the sprawling metropolises of New York, Mumbai, and Shanghai would be swept away into the upper atmosphere or dragged into the churning, muddy oceans. What remains is a raw, wounded planet. The air itself, now turbulent and chaotic, would eventually settle, but the stillness of the ground would feel alien. The rhythmic hum of the planet, the background frequency of life caused by rotation and movement, is gone. In its place is a static, heavy gravity that feels different, stripped of the centrifugal force that once slightly lightened the load on our spines. With the rotation stopped, a slower, more insidious transformation begins to reshape the map of the world. For billions of years, the Earth's spin has exerted a centrifugal force that bulges the planet at the equator. This force holds the oceans in place, creating a water level that is higher around the waist of the world. Without that spin, the bulge collapses. Gravity, now the undisputed master of the planet's shape, pulls the water away from the equator and toward the poles where the gravitational pull is naturally stronger. The consequences are biblical. The Atlantic and Pacific Oceans begin to recede, draining away from the tropical zones like water from a cracked bathtub. As they retreat, they reveal the scars of the deep. Vast underwater mountain ranges, abyssal plains, and the wreckage of sunken history. A new supercontinent emerges around the equator, a continuous ring of land circling the planet. This new Pangaea is a barren belt of exposed seabed, rapidly drying salt flats, and endless mud, littered with the decaying skeletons of marine life that could not escape the retreat. Conversely, the water must go somewhere. It floods the northern and southern hemispheres. Canada, Russia, Europe, and Antarctica drown under miles of new rising seas. The Arctic Ocean and the Southern Ocean expand until they swallow everything above and below the temperate latitudes. The map of human nations is dissolved, replaced by a terrifying geometry of dry equatorial highlands and two massive polar water worlds. Even if Earth stays in orbit, the concept of a day is dead. If the Earth becomes tidally locked, facing the sun like the moon faces the Earth, one side will bake in eternal daylight, while the other freezes in eternal night. On the day side, the sun hangs motionless in the sky, a searing eye that never blinks. Temperatures skyrocket to levels that make life impossible. The oceans that haven't migrated to the poles begin to boil, creating a superheated atmospheric pressure cooker. Photosynthesis stops as plants wither and ignite. The exposed seabeds of the new equatorial continent bake into ceramic hardness, cracking open in deep fissures. This is a scorched earth, where water exists only as steam, and the ground radiates heat like an open oven. On the night side, the darkness is absolute, unending. Without the sun's energy, the temperature plummets far below freezing. The atmosphere itself begins to change state. Moisture freezes out of the air first, creating massive blizzards that bury the frozen oceans. Eventually, the carbon dioxide freezes, falling as dry ice snow, blanketing the dark hemisphere in a cryogenic tomb. The ruins of any cities located here are preserved in ice, silent monuments under starlight that never fades. Between these two extremes, the roasting hell and the frozen void, lies the planet's only hope. Deep beneath the crust, the stoppage of the Earth's rotation has a final, deadly consequence. Our planet's magnetic field is generated by the geodynamo, the churning of molten iron in the outer core, driven largely by the planet's spin. When the spin stops, the dynamo fails. Slowly, the invisible shield that protects Earth from the cosmic shooting gallery fades away. The auroras, those beautiful curtains of light normally confined to the poles, might drift erratically before vanishing entirely. Without the magnetosphere, the solar wind begins to strip away what is left of the upper atmosphere. High-energy radiation bombards the surface, sterilizing the land. The ozone layer disintegrates, allowing lethal ultraviolet light to scorch the day side even further. The planet begins to resemble Mars, a dead rock with a thin atmosphere, unable to hold on to its heat or its water, slowly bleeding its essence into the vacuum of space. Yet, life is obstinate. Even on this broken stationary world, there is a sliver of habitability. Between the burning day and the frozen night lies the Terminator line, a ring of eternal dawn and dusk. Here, the sun sits perpetually on the horizon, casting long golden shadows that never move. In this twilight zone, the temperatures might be moderate enough for liquid water to exist, fed by the melting margins of the nightside glaciers. But this is not a paradise. The weather here would be violent, driven by the massive temperature difference between the hot and cold sides of the planet. Constant gale force winds would circulate the heat, creating a storm that never ends. In this narrow band, a strange new ecosystem begins to evolve. The survivors are not the apex predators of the old world, but the resilient fungi, mosses, and burrowing creatures. Any surviving vegetation would likely evolve to be black or dark red, desperate to absorb the weak, horizontal rays of the setting sun. We might see forests of short, squat trees, with wide trunks to withstand the perpetual storms, their leaves permanently angled toward the horizon. It is a world of twilight, where the sun never rises and never sets, casting a melancholy light over the struggle for survival. If an alien observer were to pass by millions of years later, they would not see the blue marble that once teemed with billions of human lives. They would see a strange bicolored world, half white with ice, half brown with scorched rock. They might find the fossilized remains of a skyscraper in the sediment of a dried equatorial seabed, or a plastic relic trapped in the ice of the dark side. These would be the only testaments that we were here. The story of the Earth stopping is a reminder that our existence is balanced on a razor's edge of physical constants. We rely on the momentum of the past to carry us into the future, quite literally. But nature is not sentimental. It is resilient, yes, but it is also indifferent to our specific needs. In the silence of a motionless world, the Earth would eventually heal, perhaps finding a new equilibrium in the dark, evolving strange new forms in the twilight. But it would be a lonely healing, a rehabilitation of rock and ice, standing still in the vast, uncaring theater of the cosmos, proving that while life may persist, the conditions that allow us to exist are a fragile, fleeting anomaly.